everybody. Welcome to Kinozoid podcast, where we talk about Kino. I am David Fauci, the host, joined with co-host and cohort Peter Udlog. Hello, Peter.
Hello.
Or Indiana Jones. He's got the little hat on right now. And that brings us to the topic of today's episode, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and a discussion on the series as a whole. So, further ado, let's get cracking. So we just saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I saw it twice. You saw it once.
Yep, once.
So overall, what did you think of it?
I liked it. I didn't read any reviews before it came out to save myself from that, but you were telling me, it's not getting the greatest reviews. It's only 60 something on Rotten Tomatoes, and
well, when
some of this lower press, things were going on, but so I wasn't really paying much attention. I wanted to have my own opinion on it. I enjoyed it. I liked it.
No, it's really good, and it premiered at Cannes, and I think that's kind of what because when the reviews first came out was at Cannes, which was a month before the release, and it was at like 30, 20%. And that's the other thing I kind of want to talk about too at some point is the reviews for this movie, because some of them just seem very add with an agenda versus critiquing the movie as a whole, and it feels like they're just attacking the movie for not being the original three. But anyways, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is the fifth and final movie in the beloved Indiana Jones franchise. Harrison Ford's last time playing the character. The only film not directed by Spielberg, and the only film with none of George Lucas's involvement. But Steven Spielberg is an executive producer and was very much a hands-on producer, and talked with James Mangold, the director, every day during shooting. And this movie picks off about 14 years after Crystal Skull.
Yeah, Crystal Skull was 1957. This is 1969.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the beginning of the movie opens with quite the entrance. Well, so first,
it's like the first 20 minutes or what? It's like a lost Indiana Jones movie.
Right. They usually have the Paramount dissolves to like whatever the opening shot of the movie is. They don't do this, but they do have the Lucasfilm logo dissolving into this lock. And the beginning of the movie is about 25 minutes. It is 1945, 47. It's like the end of the world.
19,
World War.
They're saying Hitler is about the war is about over. The Nazis are packing up their loot train. 1945, so it must be late April, probably around mid-April, say 45.
Yeah, and it's
mid March maybe, because Hitler April 15th, so say March.
Okay, March 1945, end of World War II. Nazis are losing the war. They're packing up all their treasure to send to Hitler. And Indiana Jones is after the Spear Leonatus, which is the spear that stabbed Jesus Christ. And
Longinus.
Longitis. I don't know my Greek, apparently, or whatever. It's Greek, or is it like
Roman?
Roman. See, I don't even know.
It's the Roman centurion spear that pierced Christ's chest on the crucifix. Then he caught the blood on. No, he didn't catch the blood. He pierced Jesus's chest.
How Christ-like.
It has mystical powers.
Yeah, and the cool thing about this is it obviously like Harrison Ford can't play Indiana Jones like he did in the 80s because he's 80 years old himself. And so they decided to de-age him with CGI. And it is, for the most part, looks really, really damn good. It's probably the finest de-aging I've seen. Like, there are a few shots here and there where it looks a bit off, but overall it looks like they filmed this whole scene in the 80s and like are now releasing it.
Yeah, a couple of times, when he's, whipping his head around, it looks a little bit suspect in a couple shots. But the only time I really noticed a digital double was when he gets on the train. The first time he gets on the train and he's kind of running across the top of the train.
Right.
It's like, that's obviously a digital double. That guy's way too bouncy looking.
Right. It like
But
doesn't
other than
move
that,
like old man Indy. No, and
it
that's
it, it kind of moves like an old stop motion puppet.
yeah.
It's kind of that jerky, janky action where it's not quite realistic looking. It looks like a rod puppet that's kind of hand animated. So maybe it was a conscious choice to make it crappy looking.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's really smart though for the movie to begin with this sequence because it kind of gets people in the
They
mindset
got
like
me in. They got me
right,
into
it's
the
like
movie.
this is an old Indiana Jones adventure. This is like what you would have seen in the 80s. This is would have been like the perfect, Spielberg Lucas film, and it's like 30 minutes. It's like in the solid fourth of the movie because the movie's like 2.5 hours long, and it like it feels and it's shot very much like an old Spielberg movie. The introduction of Mads Mikkelsen's character, I'm not going to remember his name, but he's the Nazi scientist who ends up being the main villain throughout the movie. He
Um,
realizes a spear Leonardo DiCaprio, Leonardo da Vinci. I don't know the spear that killed Jesus Christ.
no,
Um,
Jesus. No,
it stabbed
he's already
Jesus
pretty much dead.
Christ, and the
He was
blood
already pretty much
became
dead. He's just making sure.
the blood was put in the Holy Grail in Last Crusade. Um, so they Mads Mikkelsen's character realizes that the spear is a fake and is trying to warn the main general in charge of the whole operation. Of course, he's not having it. Indiana Jones is after the spear. His buddy, played by Toby Jones, is there with him, and he gets captured, and that's kind of how they intertwine. And then that's how they meet Mads Mikkelsen's character. I'm just gonna call him Nazi mathematician. That's
So
just
his character's name is Schmidt, but then he goes, "It is Jürgen Voller."
Jürgen
Like
Wohler.
Jürgen,
Yeah,
it's like everybody calls him Schmidt, and he goes, "Actually, my name's Jürgen Voller."
Jürgen Wohler.
Yeah,
Um, so
he's he's a kind of a interesting guy to be a bad guy for an Indiana Jones movie.
well, he is, and that's what's kind of interesting too. Is again, all the reviews are saying he was like not a well developed villain, but none of the villains in the series have been well developed. Like they're pulpy adventure movies.
Yeah,
And he's interesting because there is a lot of historical context with him. Because after World War II, of course, the U.S. did recruit a bunch of Nazi scientists and mathematicians to help out with NASA and a bunch of other operations. And his character he's the mathematician, basically put man on the moon, which
yeah,
is
he's basically a more evil version of Werner von Braun.
is that a real is that a real like person, or is that like a movie character?
Werner von Braun was in charge of the Peenemünde facility, and he's the one that developed or helped mainly develop the V2 rocket because his dream was to go to space. And then
Okay.
Operation Paperclip after World War II, the U.S. he intentionally surrendered to the United States or Allied forces because he knew that he had a better chance of maybe going to space and being treated fairly if he went to the Americans instead of the Russians.
All right.
So yeah, he went over to the States and um, he's started working for the government and working on rocket designs. And apparently his team was readily available to send up a satellite before the Russians put up Sputnik. But the U.S. government didn't. They had two programs running at the same time. We're kind of dividing onto a separate topic here, but they had like
Yeah.
two projects going at the same time for space program, and
Right.
they
So
didn't want the army and Werner von Braun and his former Nazis to be the ones putting a satellite into space first before the Air
right.
Force did.
So Mads
And
Mikkelsen's based off Nazi scientists that helped bring men to the moon.
and
Okay,
the Russians
got
got
it.
Sputnik up first, and Werner von
Rest
Braun's like, well, I could have been there first if you
right.
just listened to me and use my rocket that actually works instead of this low budget, Air Force competitor
It sounds a lot like kind of what happened
that
under the
blows up
sea
on the
last
launch
week.
pad every time you try to light it up.
So
Oh,
his
my favorite. I'm sorry. One of my favorite things about the early space program is I love that space program stuff. That
right,
early '50s, '60s.
right. So
One of
we're
one of
here to talk about Indiana Jones.
one of the German scientists. I don't know if this is totally true or not, but yeah, one of the rockets didn't launch off the launch pad when they were testing it. It was like early in the program, I guess, and um, this German guy's like, "I'll be right back."
Right. Okay.
He goes and gets a shotgun. and goes outside to the rocket pad and starts shooting at the rocket.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so back onto the movie.
Yes, yes.
It they're on the train, a bunch of stuff happens. The spear of Christ is fake.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana Jones realizes that Nazi mathematician realizes it, played by Mads Mikkelsen, and then they have a fight on top of the train. Mads Mikkelsen's character gets knocked off. They have the MacGuffin that's gonna be the driving force for the whole movie because what's his name, Nazi mathematician is like, I don't, the spear is fake, but I do have this half of this dial, Archimedes' dial, the of arithmetira or something like that,
Antithakira mechanism.
antithakira. He's got half of it, and like the main guy is like, have you met Hitler? Like,
Yeah,
you're
it's
gonna
like,
bring
oh,
him
I'm sorry. Yeah.
something that he
It's like,
doesn't
oh,
want,
I'm
that he doesn't
sorry.
have half of.
The guy's like, yo, I'm sorry. You want me to go to Hitler and say that the spear that he's been searching for that could win the war is a fake, but you have this magic timepiece that can turn back time. Have you met the fear?
Right, right. It's like really, just really great, just pulpy shit.
Yeah.
And so, at the end, they jump off the bridge, and Toby Jones has the arithmetira, the rhythmic
The
thing.
mechanism.
And it cuts to 1969, Indy's apartment. He's passed out on his chair. It's got a glass of scotch next to him. Neighbors, kids start playing music, so it's the whole "get off my lawn" type trope.
Damn
So
hippies.
he's like telling him it's a work day. He's like, Indy, have you seen what's going on at the moon? And he's like, I don't care. And he's a professor at a college, and I'm assuming this all took place in New York City.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had to be New York.
He's not
He's
at the same college he was in the previous movies.
No, was he in New York in the previous movies? I don't think it was explicitly stated if
Not
where he was.
explicitly stated, but it was a bigger college than what he's at this movie.
Right. Um, and again, it just kind of shows. So this whole movie is just kind of showing how Indy doesn't feel place in the time he's up in, and they go out of their way to show that. So it's kind of the opposite of all the college scenes in the previous movies. He's talking about Archimedes being a brilliant inventor, being a brilliant mathematician. No one is interested. They're all sleeping
Yeah.
during class.
Nobody's paying attention.
No,
Total opposite from the previous movies where the girls are making goo goo eyes and
I'm gonna say no one's got "I love you" written on their eyes and closing them and shit.
putting apples on his desk and running away.
Right.
Um,
Um, so this is our introduction to his goddaughter, played by Phoebe Waller Bridger,
Phoebe Waller Bridger, right?
Phoebe Waller Bridger, from Fleabag and Solo, and actually a pretty
Oh, Phoebe Waller Bridge. I'm sorry, not
Phoebe
Bridger.
Waller Bridge.
Yeah, we'll get it right eventually.
We'll
Sorry,
get it
Phoebe.
right. Phoebe Waller Bridge. Phoebe Waller Bridge. Phoebe Waller Bridge.
I was gonna call her Phoebe.
Phoebe. Um, is Indy's goddaughter, introduction to her, and she's like answering all the questions Indy's asking about Archimedes, and it like perks up his interest. He's like, oh, someone's actually paying attention to what I'm saying. And then he's like retired, had his retirement party, gets a clock as a gift, gives it to some homeless guy, goes to a bar. Phoebe meets him there. She starts talking about Toby Jones is her dad, so that's why Indy is her godfather. So he starts talking about starts talking about Archimedes and the dial and everything, and it perks Indy's interest. So that he brings her to the school.
Yeah, she's gonna do her master's theory
Right.
on Archimedes, and yeah. So she's like, do you still have this dial thing that he gave you? Like, I suppose I do. Yeah. Yeah, he takes her to the college and
Mm-hmm.
where he hid it.
And in the meantime, we get an introduction to Mads Mikkelsen at the current time and his henchman, one guy played by Boyd Holbrook, who was in another James Mangold movie as the guy with the robot arm in Logan, and then some big bodybuilder guy who just looks proportionally just terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just like built like
He's a triangle.
he's like probably 7-8 feet tall, and he's just huge, scary guy. Then there's a CIA agent And so, it's not it's talked about, but it's not like super clear the whole dynamics. But CIA is helping him kind of get the dial as kind of a thank you for helping them get to the moon. And if I remember correctly, that was kind of your big complaint with the movie, was that not being super clear.
Yeah, kind of not clear. Why are these government agents working with him and his goons to track down the style? Why would they care?
And I think later in the movie, after kind of he reveals who he is to the CIA agent, um it's kind of like revealed that she because what happens late next is kind of a big chase in New York between Indy and these goonies, and it's during a parade for the moon landing, and Indy's riding a horse, and it causes all this havoc, and it's later revealed that to her that he's actually a Nazi scientist. And I think because the US government dropped support for his stuff, because they're like, you caused a thing in New York, they're never going to help you, brought them to the moon, they got what they wanted type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're just kind of playing along till a certain point. It was kind of the implication. But so there's a big chase sequence in New York, and they got Indy kind of what's the word? Hostage, I guess would be the word, right?
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
middle of the parade. There's like a protest for the Vietnam War. Indy starts playing along. No, we won't go. No, we won't go. He's got a little smirk on his face because he knows he's like fucking with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. And
It was
then
in. Yeah. Oh, keep going. Keep going. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say it ends. Then Sala basically helps Indy get to Morocco, and you realize Phoebe has some issues there, like owe some people some money, kind of like messed around with some people, and she's gonna auction off the dial.
Yeah, she doesn't care about historical antiquities as any further than what she can get paid for them.
Right. And that's just kind of
She calls India a grave robber,
right.
as good a moralist grave robber, and don't judge her.
The
He's
thief,
like,
yeah.
he gets all upset. I was doing important academic work.
That belongs in a museum.
Yeah.
It's like academic nowadays. We'll
Like, I wasn't
see.
a grave robber, and actually, he probably was a grave robber. Yes, he was.
I found the fucking Holy Grail.
And I
Not
lost him,
like someone's Holy Grail. I found the actual cup of Christ.
and I dropped it down a hole.
I dropped it down a hole. I found a skull that was an interdimensional being that caused El Dorado to be the city of gold, but gold means knowledge, so it's a city of knowledge.
Yeah, I found a magic stone that brought life back to the valley, and almost had my heart ripped out. And
And I drink the blood of Kali Ma, which was from some mummified head.
yeah, the only artifact he ever successfully recovered was the Ark.
Yeah. And that
And
was
then
sitting in some warehouse.
yeah, it's sitting in the Area 51 warehouse. You saw it in Crystal Skull.
Well, the other thing is every other artifact in the series, from like two to four, is something he returned or something that like he didn't steal. So people are, making the point that, oh, he's a bad archaeologist just because of kind of the history in real life about archaeology. And I'm just thinking about it and just like, besides like Raiders, there really hasn't been an instance of him taking something purely to like sell or put in a museum or something.
Well, you didn't even go after the Ark to sell it.
No, he went after it because the US told him like, don't let the Nazis get it because they're gonna have the power of God kill everybody.
Yeah. And Temple of Doom, he went after the Shankara stones to help the village and save the
Yeah.
children.
And so with Dial of Destiny, basically what happens after Morocco is kind of a chase to get to the second half of the dial, and they realize it's actually the first piece was found in this sunken ship in like what, the Mediterranean Sea or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they realize the second half of the ship went lower, and that's where the other half is. So basically they're saying, well, that is where the other half of the dial is. So they go, Indy's like, I got a good sea diver friend, and it's played by Antonio Banderas, who's got one of the greatest cameos I've ever seen in one of these movies. He's
The
great.
greatest frog diver in Spanish history.
It's got like a bum leg, and it's this really crappy ship. And so they're getting to the point, and him and Phoebe are bonding, and she's kind of, so what's great about her character is you really can't trust her, but like she ends up looking at Indy as like a Godfather type situation. But what follows is like probably the finest acting Harrison Ford has ever done.
Mm-hmm. Which he
And
asked when, and he talking about when Phoebe asked him what he would travel back in time for.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
and
that
it's
that I think that's what got her character to come around to his point of view,
yep.
or actually like him a little bit more, maybe.
And everybody who said shit about, I don't care what you think about Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf is a freaking nutcase. Um, but people hate on his character. That's fine, whatever. But what happens here, just so tragic, and it's all like is why Indy is the way he is in this whole movie. Basically, he said, I would go back in time to tell my son to not enlist in the Vietnam War. I would tell him he would die. I would tell him his death would tear me and Marion apart. I would tell him I wouldn't be able to reconcile and I wouldn't be able to help her grieve and it would drift us further and further apart. And he's like choked up as he's saying it. And it's not even like it's a big scene or it's like maybe like 30 seconds of dialogue, right?
Yeah, it's not a very long. It's almost a throwaway
And
type of.
it is so well written, it is so well acted, it just like hits you in the gut. And she just kind of like she still got the wedding ring on.
Yeah,
um
well, that's an indie trait because in the fourth movie, they're yelling at each other, bickering with each other, and she goes, he's freeing her Marion from her ropes, and it's like I'm sure there are plenty of other women. And it's like, yeah, there were other women. They all had one problem.
they
They
weren't
weren't
you.
you, sweetheart.
Right, it's such a great
And
line.
she's got this big grin on her face. And
You're right. And so basically what happens is kind of a race to get to the second half, and of course eventually the Nazis get it. And just full spoilers here, folks, who haven't seen the movie. If you don't want to hear what happens, well, then I guess don't
yeah,
listen.
yeah, put a big old spoiler card up here.
Spoilies. Um, Spoilies. So basically, what happens is, uh, Mads Mikkelsen's character, Nazi mathematician, his whole goal is to go back to 1939, stop Hitler from invading Poland, kill Hitler, course correct the war, because he's basically wants to be like the new Hitler. Like there's a line early in the movie where some service bellhop at hotel brings in some room service, and Mads Mikkelsen's like, yeah, it's a black man, and he's like, where are your people from? And he's like, I'm from Boston. And he's like, no, really, where are you from? I'm from Boston. Where are your people from? I
I was
was
born in the
born
Bronx.
Yeah, I was born like 3 miles, like 3 blocks away from like the White Sox stadium or something.
Yeah,
Did you serve your country? It's like, yeah, I fought in Normandy and set up infantry. And he's like, you didn't win, Hitler lost. And the CIA agent, later when she gets shot by him and he reveals that he's a Nazi. I read an article today about the actress basically saying she had issues with the lines there being very offensive and kind of problematic. And we don't know what was originally written, but I'm assuming it was something to deal with like race and eugenics coming out of Mads Mikkelsen's character. And she was
yeah,
talking.
because other than that one time, he doesn't say anything overtly, racist.
No, and it just kind of like, she said how great it was that James Mangold collaborated with her, like her issues with that. And he's like, yeah, I flagged that as something we needed to maybe fix. And like, so you don't need that in there twice, especially when it's coming after a character dying. um and I'm like, I don't know what the line was or anything, but I'm assuming it had something to do with that. But so they're on the airplane to go to the time storm or whatnot, and he's got the coordinates to go back to 1939. And Indy is like, you didn't take into account continental drift. You didn't take into account continental drift. And of course, Mads Mikkelsen's like, I don't believe you. He's bluffing. And
Like,
as he
my
gets
math is correct.
right, and then he's like starts doubting himself in his own head. It's like, abort, abort, abort. And by the time it's too late, they go
It's
into the
too late.
time portals, 2012 BC. Archimedes, the battle Indy was talking about at the beginning of the movie with the claws grabbing the ships and stuff, and they all the Nazi characters are in like full like Nazi uniform right now, so it just becomes full like 1950s like pulpy sci-fi novel. Now they're back in time on an airplane during this big ship battle. It's so fucking goofy. I love it.
Yeah.
And then you
I love how confident Mads Mikkelsen's character is when he gets on that plane. He's wearing his uniform. He's so proud of himself. He's
right.
figured us out. He's won. He's gonna go back and fix everything.
Well, it's his first introduction. He's in 1969. He's in a hotel. Is about an hour. He's gonna meet the president. His assistant or something. He's like, you should probably like de-wrinkle your seat. You're about to meet the president. And Mads Mikkelsen is talking to a reporter who's like recording it for some article or something. He's like, well, if the president is concerned about a few creases, he should find a new mathematician. And the reporter's like, that's good. Can I use that? His assistant's like, no. And he's like, yes. Because you can, so there's already that sense of ego and like self-importance, like right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. It's like he knows he's smart.
Right, right. So he doesn't know about continental drift, apparently. Um, so then basically Nazis are in 2012 AD, getting killed by harpoons and crap, and um, the Indy and Phoebe jump out and uh come across Archimedes, and Archimedes is like realizes what's going on, and it's revealed that the dial was actually created just to go this point in time to like help out with the battle, because the tomb that like the last part of the dial was in, um all the engravings had all these like griffin looking things with propellers, so they make a point to be like, this doesn't seem right.
Yeah, is the skeleton is wearing a modern
Oh
watch.
yeah, it's wearing a modern watch too. Which was a Matt Mickelsen's character's watch. And like, see, so they're already kind of setting up something ain't right here. And like, Indy's like, I'm staying, like I got nothing left for me in the future at my current time. And
Yeah, he
Phoebe's
is.
like,
Well, I'm saying he's just so enamored. He's like, we're watching history.
it's like his hero. It's just like, this is what I live for. This is why I did what I did. Like, no one cares at my current time. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing for me now. And I forgot to mention he got shot a bit earlier, so he's like
He's
losing blood,
bleeding.
and yeah,
He's
he's
bleeding
bleeding out
out.
now. And so he's talking to Archimedes, and Phoebe is pleading with Indian Archimedes, saying, there's nothing for him here. Like, he can't help you. He needs to go back to his own time. And, any in the Indiana Jones movie where he grabs the hat and punches someone, Phoebe does that to him, cuts to black.
He goes, I need to do this. This is
Yeah.
something I need to do.
It's like, so is this. Cuts to black. 1969, he's in his apartment. He's all bandaged up. He wakes up. Phoebe's there. And, she's like, oh, glad you're awake. And he's like, why'd you do that? There is nothing for me here. Like, yeah, there is. What? And Marion walks in, and like, she realizes that he was, I heard you were back. And like, are you back? As in like, are you back to your old self type thing is what I'm assuming it was.
Yeah. It's like, what are you doing? I'm getting groceries. I'm putting them away.
I've never seen the apartment with no food in it. Like,
Yeah.
and like Sala, oh, I forgot to mention Sala like shows up throughout the movie. Indiana Jones helped him and his family, escape, get away from Egypt, move to New York, and he's just kind of his buddy there.
He's a cabbie. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
he still knows everybody. He's still getting that info from the street.
right, right. And then I forgot to mention Phoebe had a kid, like, kind of orphan character who kind of like joined her, who's kind of throughout the whole movie, and his whole purpose is basically to have a plane for them to get back from 2012. I mean, he's a cool character, and he's
He's a
kind of,
fun
he
he's a fun
is.
character. Yeah. He's like a what, like 14 years old maybe,
Yeah, so older than Short Round, but still the same type of kind of like sidekick character.
but not an annoying sidekick character.
No,
He's capable of taking care of himself. He's not like a whiny brat through the movie. He's not obnoxious. He's an
no.
actual he's an actual character. But yeah, he that guy that yeah, he you say he steals a plane at the end. Um Phoebe's character, it almost seems like she just tells him to go start that plane up just to get him out of the way so she can sneak onto the Nazi plane
Mhm.
and save Indy or try to save Indy. And he ends up taking the plane and doesn't know that there's a guy behind him
Right. Where's my
sleeping.
plane?
You're stealing my plane.
As they're like going through this time vortex and this big storm. You're stealing my plane.
Yeah, and then the guy took everything pretty well. He goes back in time 2,000 years and sees all these Roman
And
triaries.
what is he gonna do? You know what I mean? It's like his plane is like, what is he gonna do? Like, like get me out of here! Like you're stuck in the past, buddy.
Yeah.
It's like a random Italian guy just like sleeping in the back of his plane that he owns. So the end of the movie, like, um, Phoebe takes Sala and the kid, I forget the kid's name, and Sala's kids out to go for ice cream, and
Oh,
then
Teddy.
Teddy, yeah.
Yeah.
And the last scene kind of mirrors the scene from Raiders. You
On the merchant ship. Yeah.
know,
It's like, what hurts? Everything hurts.
where? And then she like points to her elbow. This hurts, and he kisses her elbow and like points her like shoulder. So it's that, but reverse, where Marion's doing it for Indy, and it's very, very sweet. In the last shot of the movie, Hat's hanging outside the apartment on a clothes hanger. Can't
Iris, yeah.
circles in. Yep, he grabs a hat in the movie.
The
So
adventure continues to the ice cream store.
right. And I mean, here's the thing with this movie, like, is it as good as the first three? No, it doesn't need to be. No, it's very, very different. It's very much just kind of closing this character and his kind of archetype, because it's very much about, it's almost like a statement on nostalgia, like blockbusters. Because it's this character who's in this time period he doesn't belong in. And it's just kind of showing you like how you shouldn't like stick to the past, and you should just kind of like just, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. James
Yeah.
Mangold is going to corner the market for himself on retiring beloved characters.
Oh yeah, Logan is phenomenal. Yeah.
So this
And
is the second time he's retired a beloved character.
right. And like he did, like, the movie was, I mean, I really liked it. I thought his direction was great. He wasn't the only person to write it. Like David Koepp wrote it and stuff, and a few other people that been involved when Spielberg was originally going to direct. Um, like, is the action as strong? No. And like Indy's an old man, and they go out of their way to make him feel out of place in every situation. Like he's not punching people left and right. Like he's just trying to hit blows and avoid getting hit and stuff. And it just, he feels his age.
He
It's not,
start. I'm sorry. Keep going.
I was gonna say, he feels his age. It's not like comical where how old he is. It's like, let's speed up the old man type thing. No, it's just this old man that's forced onto this adventure, and he doesn't
He
feel in place in it.
he actually gets better as the movie goes along. The more he gets dragged into the situation.
Yeah.
He starts the movie off, where he comes across his colleagues murdered, and he's fumbling with the phone, and he's trying to call the police. He's like, "There's dead people here," and they basically frame him for murder because his bloody thumbprint is on the telephone.
Right. That's right. And that's
Um,
why he was escaping, and Sala helped him get to the airport.
yeah, he's running away from the goons, and he's like flagging down a policeman. He's like, "There's people, there's uh, people following me, and they're trying to kill me."
Right.
And then he steals the guy's horse, but yeah, he doesn't really want to get involved with anything.
No.
His main purpose of the movie starting off is just to get his property back that Phoebe stole from him, that he stole
Right.
from the Nazi, who stole it probably from somebody else.
Or I guess something else we didn't talk about too is the dial and uncracking the secrets behind it was driving Toby Jones' character, um Phoebe's father, Indiana Jones's friend, mad. And there's like a whole flashback sequence where he's at his apartment, Indy comes in, and Toby is going mad, and he's like, "You're scaring your daughter. Like, you need to knock this off. Like, I will take it. Get it off your hands. You don't have to worry about it anymore."
Yeah, that was another good de-aging
I
of
know.
it.
And it's such a good scene too, and we don't get these scenes in this series because it's just showing the dynamic between the whole situation. And like, he's like, "You'll destroy it," and he's like, "Yes, I will destroy it." And like, obviously he's not going to. He's just gonna like put it somewhere to get just hide, because
Yeah.
he wants to save the relationship between Toby and his daughter.
Like,
And
you'll destroy it, right? Yes, Baz, I'll destroy it.
yeah, and he's
Like,
like
take
walking
it.
out.
Like, don't forget, I won't, Baz. Don't worry.
Right, he's walking out, he sees young Phoebe, and he's like, I'm so sorry about this. I gotta go catch a flight, because he's like knows like she needs some like comfort right there then and there, but he
Yeah.
needs to get out, and he's like, I'll call you as soon as I get back. And like, the maid's there, and he's like, you'll be here, and she's like, okay, I'm sorry about this. He will be fine in a few days. I will call you when I get back. And he forgets his hat, so she grabs him his hat and brings it to him as he's in the cab.
Yeah, I think this whole movie, his character, it's like he's for all of his adventures and efforts throughout the decades of looting tombs and stopping the Nazis and stopping the Russians and saving the world. He hasn't really gained anything. He's pretty much lost everything that he ever gained.
Well, I mean, the other thing too, and it's like some of the reviews I've seen about this movie is like this isn't the same character. Like he's no longer the old Indiana Jones. And like the first three movies, like there's not much growth as a character. It's such a generic kind of archetype.
He's Action Man.
He's Action Man. That's basically it. Like there's a bit with four introducing the son and Marion again. So like I always don't get that kind of argument when the character, not to say he's a not an interesting character, but the characterization is so thin, and it's saved just kind of by the pulpiness of the movies and kind of Harrison's performance in all of them. People are like, "Oh, this is grumpy old man Indy. All Disney does is take our heroes and turn them, to old grumpy people." I'm just kind of like, what would you do with an Indiana Jones movie where Harrison Ford is 80 and it has to take place in the 60s? Like, what would you do? And they're like, "Oh, I wouldn't do that." It's like, then what would you do? Oh, you
Yeah.
don't know? Then shut up,
Maybe put him in the haunted house, like one of the original ideas for the old
right?
movies.
And then be like an Atlantis one that turned into a game or something too. I
Yeah.
think. I think Frank Donapart was actually going to work on four before David Koepp and George Lucas got their hands all over it. Like it was actually supposed to be a script, and I think it was the Atlantis one. From what I hear, it was really like the script was really fucking good.
I guess I like George's, I think George is like constantly trying to convince Spielberg that his ideas for Indiana Jones are like the fourth movie. It's like it's aliens, George, but it's Steve. It's aliens. He's gonna fight Moon Man. It's gonna be like 1950s B movie comic schlock. It's gonna be great. And Spielberg is totally not getting the idea of it, and Lucas is apparently just keeps banging his head on the wall and is like, "You're not understanding the malleability of this character. He's not just a Nazi puncher."
I
It's
just,
like,
I just,
oh, all right. Well, they're going to be like aliens, but they're interdimensional beings. They're not really alien Martian men. It's like, oh, all right. Well, what do they look like? Aliens.
I just imagine like Spielberg. George is like, Let, let's do another movie. And Spielberg was like, yeah, let's do another movie. What's it gonna be about, George? It's gonna be aliens. I don't want to do fucking aliens, George. I've done ET. I've done Close Encounters. I've done
And
War of the Worlds. I'm done with fucking aliens.
like,
How
all right,
about
they're not aliens. They're
they're
interdimensional
interdimensional
beings.
beings?
It's like,
It's like, George, if I do this, will you fucking leave me alone? Like
maybe.
that's what I feel what happened with that movie. George was like,
Yeah.
we gotta do aliens. We gotta do a crystal skull. I like the crystal skull.
I've
And
seen the
like,
Crystal Skull.
you've seen the real crystal skull?
Well, I've seen the Crystal Skull in the British Museum.
Oh, nice.
It's a
I like.
fake.
Is it
Yeah, apparently it is a fake. It's like it's very impressive looking.
like made out of acrylic or something?
I don't know what the heck it's a crystal of some sort, but yeah, it's machined. Apparently, it looks very impressive.
Yeah.
Back when I saw it, it was still considered legitimate mystery,
Oh,
as
nice.
far
I
as I know.
remember. I remember Crystal Skull came out. They had all those like History Channel documentaries and all the different like crystal skulls that have been found throughout history.
Um,
I don't like. Do you think there's like because they say they're made by things that like machines can't do and stuff, and it's just kind of like, okay, I don't believe that,
I'm not saying it's aliens.
but it's
It's aliens.
aliens. So Indiana Jones
Oh,
5,
my
which
head disappeared.
oh shit, God, the green screen's really messing with you. Your mic is turning into the cliff of the Sierra Nevada you got going on there.
Mhm.
Would you say Indy 5 is a good end to end the series on?
I think it is.
Yeah.
There's not really more you can do with the character.
No,
He's
and
an old,
that's a
he's an old man now. Unless you gave it to a different character, like he doesn't even. He's not the main action man of this movie. It's Phoebe Bridge is the main person doing all the
Fiona
action.
Fiona Shaw. I just remembered her name. I am sorry for not saying that for the
Yeah,
first 40 minutes of this.
yeah. The character name is Fiona. Yeah, Fiona Shaw.
And that's kind of what I
She's the
was
one doing. She's the one doing all the main action stuff.
right. That's what I was kind of thinking watching this. It's just like if they were to do more with this character, they should have done it in the 80s and maybe done like one every 2 years or something.
Mm,
But the thing is, you can't do anything now due to Harrison's age, due to kind of this type of movie not being popular, kind of archaeology kind of being not a fun, not a cool thing for the to be happening these days because of museums having a history of appropriating different cultures artifacts and stuff and removing them and all that kind of fun stuff. So like I feel like they did what they could with this one in a way that wraps everything up very nicely while giving you a bit of nostalgia, but also kind of doing something new and different with indie.
yeah, I thought
And
it was a better ending than Crystal Skulls was,
yeah,
even though
it's
it's more depressing.
right. And I mean, I really like this movie. It's not doing well at the box office, but nothing is this year.
It only got what 60 million for the opening weekend here.
Yeah, and that's I want to kind of point out one of the reviews I saw online. So I'm going to read this for a second. I just like the way this is written, and also I also want to point out. Do you know Jeremy Johns, that YouTube reviewer at all? The guy who's always got like the blazer and like the red shirt, and he's like um drinks required or whatnot. Like reviews movies at the end. He's got like
Mm,
you if you saw him, you know what I'm
if I
talking
saw him,
about.
maybe I'm horrible with names.
So I haven't watched him in years because he used to be kind of a decent critic, and then it just became the whole kind of like pop culture anger baiting type crap. And so his review for Indiana Jones was kind of in my feed as I was kind of like watching a bunch of different kind of discussions on past films in the series, and I was like, I'll check it out, see what happens. First like screen, he's like, guess we got to talk about it. Like already right there, you're coming in with an agenda that you're gonna like hate it.
This guy. Yes,
Yeah, and
I haven't watched his. I tried watching some of his videos, but I think it was must have been one of the ones where he would, like you said, he must have obviously be coming with a set idea of it,
right.
and he's making everything rationalize his idea of what the movie was or how bad it was.
Right. And that's, I was kind of irritating because he's like, the action is so bad and so bland and uninspired. And he's talking about the scene as Phoebe's driving the motorcycle in the rain to get on the plane before it hits the time storm. And he's like, you got bland action when you got rain and you can't even see anything. And I'm watching this scene, and it's like, it's so dark, I couldn't see anything. And I'm like watching it. You can see everything perfectly fine. It's not a freaking action sequence. It's her
It's
driving a
nighttime.
motorcycle. It's nighttime. She said they add this rain so they can hide it. They're hiding this rain because they explain there's this storm where the time like shifting happens, and then like it's not even an action sequence. She's driving a motorcycle to jump onto the wheel of a plane as it's going into the plane as it's taking off. Like that's all that scene is. That is all that scene is, and that was his criticism for the movie, saying Indy was a bland. They turned him into such a grumpy man character, and like Disney does this and crap. Which brings me up to this review I saw from this website called Outkick, and the way this review is formatted here. Let me screen share this with you.
Okay,
This is this is great.
lay it on me here. Lay it
Okay,
on.
so this is this website Outkick. I've never heard of it before, so I know nothing about it. But this review, it's by David Hookstead. Um, and like the way this is formatted is like something some guy wrote, and like even the screenshots like don't line up with another. Like this is like the laziest web formatting, and it's like two paragraphs of a review that's like put up as
Hmm.
okay, so Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny may not be as bad as critics have painted it to be, but that's not the main takeaway. The main takeaway is simple. Why was this movie made? And like money. And like that's why
Money.
any movie's made is money. So it's just kind of like I ventured away from my Outkick den this afternoon to catch up the fifth and final film with Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones has been a film franchise I've been obsessed with since I was a little kid. In terms of series, it's among my all-time favorites. No way I was going to miss Ford's last time as the legendary archaeologist. However, it's not a secret. Dial of Destiny has received some awful reviews. It's been more or less universally panned and is expected to be a box office bomb. What is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny about? The plot of the fifth Indiana Jones isn't overly complex, and he discovers an item that might be able to manipulate time while he's battling the Nazis in World War II. Fast forward to 1969, and that's where the majority of the film takes place. The object is still the center of the entire movie, but now the Nazis Indy was fighting have been brought over to help America's space program. It's clearly based on Operation Paperclip. Is that thing you're talking about that
Yep.
I rudely interrupted you about? I
Yeah.
apologize. Okay,
Getting the Nazi scientists over to America to work on space for us.
that is awesome. Is there any books or anything you think people should recommend, or anything that people should watch on that? Because that sounds actually pretty cool.
Oh, I'm sure there's. I can't name anything off the top of my head. Just
Like some like History Channel documentary or something. Just look up Operation Paperclip in Wikipedia.
yeah,
Oh,
basically, you'll dive into a deep hole of space stuff, but it's interesting. It's a very interesting time period.
uh, good news about the film. It's isn't nearly as bad as critics have painted it to be. Is this the review I'm thinking of? Maybe. I think this is the wrong review. Well, that is embarrassing. Well, basically, yeah, this is not the review I was thinking about, but I think it's a website, unless they changed it. Here, give me a second. Wait, maybe it's this one.
That's a bad one.
Oh my god.
2.5 out of 5.
This might be it, but I don't know. I can't find the review, and I do apologize. I thought I had it, but basically, they were saying the whole review was saying what they would do with the fourth one. Why not bring Short Round? He's been doing, Hugh Quay's been lapping up the Sunline, since winning the Oscar and everything. Why not do all this, all that? Why do something? It's just kind of like my biggest issue with criticism nowadays is they're getting mad at things for what they want them to be and what they aren't. And the thing is, you look at something for what it is, you either praise it or you don't like what it is, but you don't criticize or praise something for what it isn't. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like
It's if it doesn't mesh with your fan theory,
right, everybody's got their own
canon in your head, it's a bad thing.
right. That's my biggest issue with this toxic, fandom shit we got going on is everybody's got a take and they want their take to be the only take, which is cool, but that is not a critique. That is not a review. What a review is you're looking at the actual film. You're talking about it, what works and what doesn't work. What these people are doing is like, it is not what I wanted. It's not what I imagined for the character, so it's bad. It's like, no, that's bias right there.
Yeah.
You're upset it isn't what you had in your head, but look at it for what it is. You cannot like it for what it is, but don't get mad at it because it's not what you wanted, type thing. Like, I wanted the short round with short round adventure, and it's just like, that's not what the movie is.
If they brought Short Round in, then people would be complaining, oh, why'd you bring in Short Round? He's not doing anything. He's just there for nostalgia purposes.
You can't please anybody today, as I said many times. The internet is full of opinions. Everybody's got an opinion, and they're like assholes. They all stink, including mine, including yours, including this guy back here.
Yeah.
So we both liked Indiana Jones. We thought it was a good fitting end to the series. I if you have any interest in the series and in the movie, I recommend you seeing it in the theater. If not, wait till it drops on Disney Plus. But there are 4 other movies in the series, Pete. Did you know that?
I think I heard about that somewhere.
Right? There's what? There's Raiders Lost Ark, there's Temple of Doom, there's The Last Crusade, and there is Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So, Raiders, Pete. When did you first see Raiders of the Lost Ark? We talked about this in the first episode. It was like at the theater or something, right?
Yes,
It was like a re-release.
It had to be a re-release because it came out in '81, and I was probably alive at that time, but I was not old enough to remember anything that happened. So it had to be a re-release sometime around the Last Crusade in '89, because Crystal Skull, or not Crystal Skull, Last Crusade, and it was one of the first movies that I can remember seeing. The first movie is Batteries Not Included.
Right.
But I distinctly remember watching The Last Crusade and Donovan, going mummified because he chose poorly.
Right.
And I remember watching Raiders and everybody, the head blowing up and the head melting and then shrinking and all the Nazis getting the light beam through them. And totally, I remember that, seeing that in the theater and scared the hell out of me. So somewhere around 89, I first saw the indie shows. And then Temple of Doom on TV in a TV edit. Probably on a daytime, Saturday night movie type of thing.
Right. And it's crazy to think about. Raiders of the Lost Ark is for action films what Star Wars did for sci-fi.
Yeah.
It's just kind of just this melding of things that came before and like a new and fresh take. It's got supernatural elements. It's very pulpy. The action is well shot. It's John Williams' score. Dial of Destiny. John Williams, 90 years old, writing 130 minutes of music for Dial of Destiny, and it's as good as anything he's ever done. Like, he's not just one of the best film composers; he's just one of the best musicians to ever exist on this planet.
Yeah, and then the cinematography of Janusz Kaminski for Raiders.
He didn't do Raiders, did he?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, because he
No, I'm
started.
sorry. Slocum. Slocum.
I was gonna say,
Douglas
yeah,
Slocum.
yeah. News did Crystal Skull because he's worked with Spielberg on everything since
Since
Schindler's List.
Schindler's List.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sorry, Slocum. I remember hearing the story about Slocum and Spielberg. Spielberg's detaining. He wants to get this shot and he wants to be this angle. He wants to be at this time period. And Slocum's like, "Oh, what a lovely shot!" And he goes off and figures out how to do it. And he's like, "Oh, what a lovely shot!"
yeah.
Like, I'll be right back.
It's just such a
And everything in that first movie on Raiders, just 10 out of 10.
right.
Knock out of the ballpark.
Perfect. Everything is
It's a perfect movie.
All the effects, like, it's great practical work. It's great like optical effects.
Great stunt work.
Great stunt work. Great action. Great acting. It's like him trying to get the Ark of the Covenant before the Nazis do World War II. It's like very pulpy.
It's a perfect, like you said, it's a perfect bringing the 1930s pulp actions, dime store novels, one real cliffhanger adventure
right.
serials into the modern, modern of the 80s moviegoers' attention. Like they just Spielberg, Lucas, and everybody just knock it out of the park.
No,
I
absolutely.
love the idea of Spielberg, complaining to Lucas that he wants to make a James Bond movie, but they'll never give it to him.
Right.
And Lucas is like, well, I got something that's better than James Bond.
Oh, that's the thing, is like Spielberg really wanted to do James Bond.
Indiana Smith.
Right.
Smith.
No, Jones.
Like, what about yeah? I'm not
Yeah, that's
crazy. Yeah.
gonna say that's kind of a fun story because he wanted to direct a James Bond film and they wouldn't let him. And from my understanding, like, Star Wars came out, him and Spielberg went to Hawaii over opening weekend, just thinking the film was gonna bomb, and they're just there to just kind of be like, "We'll be away from this mess if it blows up on me."
Yeah.
And they made a pact the night before on like the beach, and they like drew it in the sand or something, from my understanding. And they said, if this film does well, you got to do Indiana Jones for me. And he's like, okay. Sold out West Coast opening weekend. I'm like, okay, we got to make these now.
Yes. Lucas is like he had no faith in Star Wars. It seemed like it was. I'm sure he was just a nervous wreck. He went through so much on that movie just to try to get it made,
Yeah.
and then getting ILM to do the work that he created them to do in half the time because they goofed off and messed up all their effect shots before.
From my understanding, because his wife at the time was the editor on that movie, and from my understanding, she's the one that saved the movie in editing.
In Star Wars,
Yeah, the original Star Wars.
yeah, that's what I heard too. That the movie was saved in the edit.
Yeah. And Indiana Jones came out, blew the world.
Editors are underappreciated sometimes.
They are. And what's kind of interesting, but Bryan Singer's career is over now, just due to being a creepy guy.
Mm-hmm.
His editor is also the composer on his films. So I think that's kind of interesting. You're editing a movie and you know what the movie needs musically, so you'd be able to like do that. I've I don't know of many like editor composer combos.
No, I don't think I've ever heard
Like
about that.
it's not like an interesting combination. Like and
That
like you think about it, it's like that actually makes sense.
that's an interesting trivia fact.
Yeah, fuck Brian Singer, by the way.
Yes, yes.
This whole thing is bringing like 16, 17-year-old guys to his house in Hawaii, offering them to be the next Wolverine in exchange for yeah. Anyways,
Don't need to get into that.
we don't need to get into that. We did that with Ezra Miller last week. Um, Raiders is one of the perfect action films. The finale is just great. You know, him and Marion are tied to a stake as the Nazis are taken, uncovering the Ark of the Covenant, and he's like, Marion, don't look, don't look, And then of course the Nazis look, and it kills them all, and one guy's head explodes. And the film, I don't know if you knew this, but the film actually got an R rating with the head explosion, so they added like optical fire over it to
Yeah,
kind of make
yeah.
it less gory.
It didn't work out.
And what
They had
fall
no objections to the guy's face melting,
right.
but yeah, the head exploding. No, 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 you can't do that.
And what follows for Indiana Jones is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which is one that is as hated, a bit less so, but very strongly hated by a lot of people that like the franchise.
And it's a prequel.
With Crystal Skull, and I kind of put it as like the ones they don't like. And this is honestly my favorite one.
It's an overlooked movie.
I mean, I don't think it's your favorite. It's probably Raiders. It was Curse Fate, I'm assuming.
My ranking is 1, 2, 3, 5, 4.
But
So
yeah,
the originals in order, and then flip flop the new ones.
right. Mine, and I'm kind of cheating here, but again, I'll get into this bit. I think Raiders and Last Crusade are so similar. Temple of Doom, Raiders, Crusade tied, Dial of Destiny, and then Crystal Skull. And I like it's not like I think Crystal Skull's all the way down at the bottom. I just it's just like one or two, one, three, five, and then four. It's not like people are like at the bottom of the list is Crystal Skull because that one sucked.
Yeah.
So Doom is very, very different. And this is why it is my favorite, because it is the most pulpy. It is the most kind of like Indiana Jones on this random adventure. You caught him in the middle of this. It begins with him in China at Club Obi-Wan. Lucasfilm connections are going on.
Yeah, in Shanghai. Yeah.
He's trading, was it gems or something?
Um,
For the
Souvenir.
ashes, like the cremated remains of one of like the Chinese emperors, like of the first dynasty or something.
he's trading this emperor's remains for like a big giant,
Yeah,
a
that
big
blue
diamond,
blue
a big
diamond.
diamond.
Yeah. And he kind of like he gets like it becomes this whole kind of like gangster like scene in the club where they're shooting him and stuff, and he's trying to get away. And
he enters the movie like James Bond.
Right. He's got the white suit
tux.
on. He's got
his
the
white
red.
tux. You don't see him until he sits down at the table.
And that's because the
He's like-
opening of Raiders
he's
is
all-
so different. It's so mysterious. Like he's in shadow. It's like shots of him from behind and stuff. But no, it's just right up front. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?"
The
I'm
whole movie
Indiana
starts off
Jones.
with a song and dance number because
Yes.
Spielberg said he always wanted to do a dance movie. He finally ended up doing West Side Story a couple years last year.
I still haven't seen that. I hear it's good
Like,
though.
I always wanted to do a dance movie or a song and dance, like a music theater. So he starts the whole movie off with a big dance number.
Right.
Like we're out of nowhere. This is totally out of this is only the second movie in the series, but it's totally different from the first movie.
Right. And that's why I fucking love it. And then Willie Nelson, or Willie Scott, where the hell the female's character? Willie Scott?
Willie Scott.
Yeah, she gets sucked into the whole thing, and Indiana Jones has got his little sidekick Short Round, He Kwei Kwan, who's just delightful in that movie and continues to be a delightful person till this day. They escape on a plane. The plane is run by the people, and they were causing issues in China,
working for the gangster.
Yeah,
operate and liaison by Dan Aykroyd.
Thank you. I forgot about that. Yeah, it's great. me and words don't work none too good times at some. They go on a raft to get out of the plane because there's no one running it.
And they dump the fuel so he can't fly anywhere.
Right. And then they end up in this Indian village, and like children are missing, the stones are missing, so they're like, well, we'll take you to Bengal, but first you need to go to this mansion and figure out what's going on. And what's also great about this movie is, and people hate Willie Scott, saying she's the most annoying character, and it is a joke. It is done on purpose because she is the exact opposite of Marion. She's the exact opposite of everyone in the movie, and it's just so, the movie is so kind of dark and kind of like, just it's a freaking like exploitation movie for kids, because you realize there's this like weird death cult existing in this temple underneath this mansion, and the main guy's like ripping people's hearts out, and like Indiana Jones only cares about the stones, but then starts hearing these cries, and you realize there's actually like kids being used for like slavery, for mining and stuff.
Yeah,
And
so
this
they
is
can find what are they digging for? They already got the stones. I can't remember what they were digging for.
I think they're
Supposedly,
just digging for diamonds or whatnot. You know what I mean? It's just like an evil thing.
and don't dig too deep because all that lava. They know the lava's
Right,
down there
right.
for whatever reason. There's giant pits of lava under this palace.
The whole dinner sequence at the beginning where they're eating all the weird foods, and yeah, again, the Indiana Jones series in general is just full of just very dated kind of racial
Stereotypes.
stereotypes.
Yeah,
And like I don't think Spielberg, I don't know about Lucas, he's kind of a weird dude. I don't think Spielberg like went at it with like ill intention. It's just like, this is what I saw as a kid, I'm just kind of making it bigger and grander, with regards to like adventure serials and stuff.
yeah. Like if that came out in the if this movie, I'm sorry, came out in the 30s, like there's set time
You're right,
period wise and thematically wise, um, I think they would fit right in.
you're
And
right,
maybe even be deemed progressive because you got Indian American actors playing fairly main leads. Um, and Indian actors playing the main lead of the villain.
right.
They
It's
don't have a
Bollywood
guy in
actor,
yellow.
isn't
They
he?
don't have a guy in yellow face.
No, I mean,
Uh,
they do have John Rhys Davies, who's in, is he
he's not Egyptian.
he's I think he's in Brownface in like 1 and 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Well,
don't talk about.
at least in Temple of Doom they got Amrish Puri as Mola Ram.
Right. And I don't know, it's just so much the opposite of everything else in the series. It's not some thing where it's the end of the world and he's got to fight Nazis or the Soviet Union or anything. It's just him on an adventure. Here you are. It's this pulpy thing. It's very kind of moody. It's dark. It's very well shot, like the Temple of Doom set. I don't know if you guys keep guys watching this video. That's my background here. It's just freaking beautiful. The minecart sequence, like every time I rewatch it, is one of the finest chase sequences of all of cinema, in the way it's shot, in the way it just slowly escalates, and the practical effects of it. End of the movie is great. Villain gets eaten by alligators. It's such a freaking fun movie. It's
Oh,
dark and fucked up, but it's fun.
that car chase scene doesn't really make sense if you think about it, though.
None of these movies make sense. And that
Well,
is,
they're jumping. Indy takes the wrong tunnel, unfortunately, because he doesn't listen to Short Round. Um, but then Bolaram has his thugs knock out the water tank and flood the tunnels.
mhm,
Uh, None of that water probably will get to Indian Mary or Indian Willie and Short Round because it would go down into the lava
right,
section
right.
that they went over. It's like there's not enough water to to go over that lava, or maybe it went down the correct tunnel and then caught up with them.
Yeah. I don't know. So
That movie that movie's kind of goofy in spots too, but
it also helped create the PG-13 rating, just because due to its content. And from my understanding, George Lucas was going through a really dark divorce during the time of the movie, and like Spielberg just didn't want any part of it.
yeah, nobody wanted to be a part of the movie apparently. Yeah, but unintentionally it turned out to be fantastic,
Right.
despite their best intention or worst intention.
And then what follows is Last Crusade, which people either like, most people either like Last Crusade or
Raiders.
Raiders best, yeah.
Oh, the originals. Yeah.
And Last Crusade is fun. Like it's him. His dad basically goes mad trying to like figure out where the Holy Grail is. Dad's played by Sean Connery. You find out why Indy's afraid of snakes because the first opening segment of the movie is a young Indy played by River Phoenix. Um, that's that whole thing's
Yeah,
um
so they do up all the character traits that you see later in grown up Indy. Or where did he get the hat? Where did he get the look of the leather coat and the the white shirt, or tannish shirt and trousers? How to get his lip cut? How to get a spear of snakes? He was already interested in treasure.
yeah.
So yeah,
Again,
they're setting up all all the things that people were complaining about for the Han Solo movie. It's like, how did he meet Chewbacca? How did he get his gun? Where did he get the
how do you get his
Falcon?
name? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're doing all this in 1989 and nobody complains about it.
I know. Like, how would he get his name? Han Solo. Oh, they gave him the last name because he doesn't have a last name. That's stupid.
Yeah,
Solo's a stupid last name. Like, what are you talking about? How do you meet Chewbacca? Oh, I didn't need to know that. Uh, um, and again, it's very fun. Him and Sean Connery work really well with each other. The big thing is the Holy Grail, and Nazis want it, and I don't know. It's so similar to Raiders, so that's why they're kind of tied for me.
yeah, that's understandable. You punch one Nazi, you punch all the Nazis.
Right. I'm not just
It's
saying
still
like punching
still a
Nazis
fun
is
movie.
good.
Yeah, it's still a fun movie. It's I like some of the the action scenes where the Venice boat chase.
Right. I
Uh,
love the scene where they go to the castle and he's like
he's
he's like
looking for the tapestries.
yes, because they're like trying to get in. So he's got
Yeah.
like the hat on and he's got the Scottish accent. I heard you got the tapestries. He's like, do you
Like,
not have
we have
tapestries?
many tapestries, but if you're a Scottish lord, then I am Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
How dare he?
Like just shows how good Harrison can be at like comedic acting.
Yeah, he's underrated as he's when he like Indiana Jones is kind of a goof character when he wants to be most of the time he's very serious, but
Right.
he is very underrated as comedic timing.
If you are the British Mickey Mouse. And then there's a whole scene with the book burning because his Indy's dad has a book with the location of the Holy Grail, and it's like 1932, Berlin, the burning books. Indiana Jones runs into Hitler. Hitler signs his dad's book, and the fun behind the scenes fact about this, George Spielberg is Jewish, and did Schindler's List, which is considered one, is one of the best films of all time, and raised a lot of kind of just awareness and stuff, and with the Shoah Foundation and everything. So he hates Nazis, as all people should hate Nazis.
Yeah.
And so when
Nazis are not good people.
no,
I'm gonna
and
put that
when
out right here, right now. It's like I don't like Nazis.
no, I think the third one is either the third one or Raiders. They found like a bunch of like Nazi uniforms in like Poland.
That's the third
Is
one.
it this one?
That the book burning scene.
Yeah, so
I can
they're
I can
actually like real Nazi uniforms used in World War II. Like they use them instead of like making them, and like at the end they just burn them all, which I think is great. But Spielberg made everybody when they did the salute kind of cross their fingers behind their back to cancel it out. I think that's kind
Yeah.
of like cool kind of behind the scenes fact on that movie. Um, and the love interest is great because she's actually kind of the bad person, and there's a whole like yeah,
Allison Duty, Jenny Flex.
yeah. And the last scene of the movie is great. Like they ride off into the sunset, him and a British
Him,
guy and
Sala,
that
Sala, Marcus, and
Marcus is
yeah,
great because he's trying to get to them and he like goes down the wrong area. He's like just a bumbling idiot, and like Sala
yes,
like helps him finally. Oh my god! And then that brings us to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I've always liked. I've rewatched it a few times in the past few years, and it really holds up. And I told you to rewatch it last night because you're like, I'm just gonna watch clips of it, and you ended up liking it more, didn't you?
I did. I ended up liking it more than I thought I did. I didn't skip through anything. I watched every scene.
Because you said you're gonna skip through all the Shia LaBeouf stuff.
Yeah, I can't stand Shyla.
I that's a fine and agreeable take to have. I can't stand Shia either.
I don't think any other people can. Well, I know he didn't do himself any favors on the press circuit for that movie, saying
No,
he hated working on the movie. He hated working with Spielberg on the movies that he worked with him on. He says he's a factory instead of a director. Like, you're not the hot shit, Shia.
right. Just do it.
It's like, do
It's,
your job as an actor.
no. Well, do you want to hear something funny? So, the first three Transformers movies had like 4 hour behind the scenes documentaries for them, and the third one, you know, the scene where Optimus is taking the ship up to space and Shia LaBeouf is sad.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole thing of him getting into an argument with Michael Bay because he's like, I'm not in the right mood for this scene. So he like ends up having this song blasted on the speaker, and you just kind of like very somber. He's like, okay, let's do it, and he gets into this fight with Michael Bay, and just like, you're in a fucking Transformers movie. Why are you trying to be method in a fucking Transformers movie? Like, Jesus Christ, like
Did he pull when he did Fury as one of the tank men? Didn't he have two of his teeth pulled out
he had
for
2 of his teeth
because
pulled out. He apparently he cut himself with glass. I heard he shit in the tank.
because it's method and it fit his character.
Like
Everybody else,
that's as cringy as what's his
it,
name, Jared Leto sending like used condoms and everybody as
uh,
Joker, and just like that's like sexual harassment. That's just like full on creeper. Like, don't
it's like
encourage that. Like, there's method acting like Daniel Day-Lewis, and then there's
idiot.
method
Yeah,
acting, which is
there's
justification for being a creep.
yeah. When I hear stuff like that, reminds me of Laurence Olivier and his comment towards Dustin Hoffman on Marathon Man.
Yeah.
Where Dustin Hoffman's he has to pretend to be sleep addled when he hasn't slept in like 2 days. His character is, and he's being interrogated by Olivier's Nazi dentist doctor with a drill bit, and Dustin Hoffman kept himself awake for 2 days before the scene, so he would legitimately be, you know, on edge and anxious, and like he wouldn't have to act that hard to be it because he was it. And Olivier, it's like, there's a thing called acting. You might try it.
Right.
Something to that effect. It's like, you don't have to do that much.
It's,
You're an actor. Use the things that you learned in acting school.
there will be blood, which another Daniel Day-Lewis method acting. I just rewatched it, which is kind of why it's fresh on my mind. It's a fucking great movie. The kid in it is not an actor, anything before or after, but the kid is great. And they
And
really wanted this kid, and they got from like a school, and the parents were a bit hesitant, so they watched a Daniel Day-Lewis movie, and it's one of the ones where he just plays like a nutcase, and I don't know which one it is, but they heard that, so they quickly showed them ones where he's actually like a nice person, and they're like, okay, we'll agree to do this.
probably probably showed him Gangs New York first because that's
I think
probably
that's
one of
what
the
it
most
was.
recent ones that he did.
From my understanding, like his character's got a glass. I've never seen it, but his character's got like a glass eye or something. You know, like taps
Mm-hmm.
a knife to it. So
Yeah,
Daniel Day-Lewis put a contact lens in, so he could actually tap his eye with a knife.
he never broke character.
Yeah,
He was always Bill the Butcher on set and offset. And then if anybody ran into him on, he'd be wander around. He'd still have the accent and the mannerisms of Bill the Butcher. And
imagine him during like catering for There Will Be Blood. I want a milkshake. No, I want a milkshake with a straw.
I want a milkshake, and
You
I
have
want
a
a straw,
milkshake,
and I want a
and I
straw.
have a milkshake, and here's my straw. You see it? And I go all
Yeah,
the
I
way
used
over
to.
here. You
Yeah,
can do it. You can do it pretty good. Do it, do it, do it,
it's been so long since I've read this, and
do it.
I need to find the quote, man.
I'll keep talking while you find it on IMDb or something. Peter is really good, by the way.
Uh,
No, so Crystal Skull, get a little bit back on topic. Came out in 2008. It's the first movie since Last Crusade, which is the late 80s. Indy's older. It's in the 1950s. Um, it involves the Soviets instead of the Nazis. Kate Blanchett is a Soviet Union person. The MacGuffin is a crystal skull. They got to get to the crystal skull. She wants it because it can show her the secrets of the universe or something. Indy gets reunited with his son. They go to Peru. They find the crystal skull. They go on this whole adventure to the city of El Dorado, which is a city of gold, which I think is where Kate Blanchett's trying to get the knowledge or something, or the power or something. I don't know. End of the movie. The crystal skull is actually a skull of an alien being that's got a crystal skeleton. They all morph together, make one alien that's a gray alien. Place explodes, UFO goes up into the sky. And John Hurt's like, Indy's like, aliens, huh? Or something. I don't know. He said something. Or maybe Shia LaBeouf or someone. And, John Hurt's like, not aliens, interdimensional beings.
Yeah, they say that in the throne control room.
Yeah.
It's like aliens, interdimensional beings is
It's just like throwaway line of dialogue. Yeah. He's like, George is like trying to not have it in the movie, and Spielberg's like, hey, John Hurt, say interdimensional beings. I don't trust George.
Yeah. Steve.
Yeah. And then oh yeah, I don't trust. Yeah. And it's, the city of gold, but gold has another meaning, which is treasure, and the treasure being knowledge, because they're aliens and they help them build this advanced civilization. Beginning of the movie, everybody hated because it's got groundhogs, it's got Elvis, it's got Indiana Jones hiding in a lead-lined fridge.
I feel bad for the residents of El Dorado, all those natives.
Right.
I think they all died. Like the temple collapsed.
Yeah.
Everything, everybody's spinning, all the rocks are spinning up in the air, and then they crash down. And then anybody that managed to survive that, the river floods into the valley and submerges everything. So if
they're like hiding in the walls and stuff too. And like people are saying, this is too ridiculous. This is so far removed from Indiana Jones. There shouldn't be aliens. He shouldn't be jumping out of a nuke-lined fridge and shit. And my argument to that is these movies, none of them are taken seriously. None of them have any lick of goddamn sense. You got like freaking stones that instantly give a village like trees and stuff. You got the Ark of the Covenant. You got the Holy Grail. You freaking got people ripping out people's hearts. I mean, it's just like, you're either with it or you're not. And if you're not with it, then it's not a movie you should be watching.
Yeah. I like in Crystal Skull where, the Kate Blanchett's Russian, is asking Indy if he has any last words. And he's like, I like Ike.
You're right.
And when he escapes and he is in the model village, or the model town, before the bomb drops off, the camera pulls back and you see the bomb tower and the bomb.
It says, I like Ike on the bomb.
I like
Ike. Yeah.
It was, oh, that can't be good.
You're right.
This is not good.
Like he goes in the house and realizes they're all mannequins and the TV's like playing Howdy Doody or something. Yeah. And there's a whole chase sequence and the college he teaches at that's kind of fun. And like
if you want to be an archaeologist, gotta get out of the library.
Right. And then he's like on the motorcycle sliding, and you kids like, Indiana, what chapter is supposed to read? Pages 13 and 12.
Forget Hendrix. Check out, Johnson.
Right.
Something.
You gotta get out on the field. So, like, again, the movie's not as strong as the first three, kind of like how the new one, Dial Destiny, is not as strong, but it still is an Indiana Jones movie, and it's still like it's fun. I feel like it's gotten too much hate. I feel like situation like the Star Wars prequels is over time people are starting to realize, oh, maybe all this hate was just because I was going along with what was going on the internet. Like there was a whole website at the time called nukethefridge.com that all it was just like really just toxic fan takes and all these major franchises.
Are you talking about you're talking about like the character development of Indy? And he doesn't the Crystal Skull, he's mostly the same Indy as the previous movies. He doesn't really grow as a character until the very end.
No, he doesn't.
And that's what makes the fifth movie even harder. Kind of depressing because he's lost everything that he gained. Yeah. And now he is a grumpy old broken man.
Yeah.
In 12 years, whatever happened in those 12 years.
Right. And that's the thing. It's just like end of 4, he's got his family, he's got his son, happy ending. Beginning of 5.
He's now the associate dean.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. He's the associate dean. Now he's teaching at this college and everybody doesn't want to learn about anything. his son's dead because he went to Vietnam to spite Indy, and it broke their marriage apart. Like, of course, he's gonna be a grumpy old man. Like I would be too.
He lost his house too.
He lost his house. Yeah. I don't understand people at times when they this isn't the character I knew. Do you
But
not want characters to change over time? Like, you want the same thing over and over again? That is why this movie's a take on nostalgia movies, because it's different. It's a character not as you know him. Like, if you get spoon fed the same shit year after year, you're gonna get tired of it. Look at the box office right now, like, for crying out loud. Comic book movies are failing because it's the same shit year after year. Movies that are different, movies that are well done, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Spider-Verse 2, they do very well at the box office because they're good movies and they're different. Yep. Speaking of that, Pete, milkshake, milkshake, milkshake. You got it?
Oh, where you want to start on it?
Just do the milkshake line where you're like, I got a milkshake and you got a milkshake.
Drainage. Drainage. Die, boy. Drain dry. I'm so sorry. Here. If you have a milkshake, and I have a milkshake, and I have a straw. See, there's a straw, see? What now? And my straw reaches all the way across the room and starts to drink your milkshake. I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
Did
you think your song and dance with superstition help you, Eli? I am the third revelation. I am the Lord is chosen.
I am the third revelation. I am a false prophet. Yeah. I have abandoned my son. I have abandoned my boy.
I've abandoned my boy. I hate men. I hate most men. He's such a fun character.
The movie's so great because, like, when he's at the beginning, when he's...
What are you so miserable about? There's a whole ocean of oil under our feet, and nobody can get it except for me. It's like
amazing.
His speech to the townspeople.
It's so great because he delivers it so believably, but there's a hint of the snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
And he's like promising all these things. And like, I'm a family man. I encourage all my workers to bring their families. I believe children are the future. So that means education. We will build a school. We will give you the finest education because children are the future. And I believe in that. But not only that, and I don't mean anything wrong. And forgive me if I comes across wrong, but bread. Having a piece of bread should not be a luxury. And with drilling comes water and irrigation. So this land will be able to, you'll be able to farm and your kids will not go hungry. Yeah. Say, I'm a family man. I run a family business. This is my son and partner, H.W. Plainview. We offer you the band of family that few oil men can understand. So fucking good. He's such a fun character. He's so miserable. He's so evil too. Like he's just watching. And what's great is like I love how this turned from Indiana Jones to There Will Be Blood. I love how
welcome to the show, everybody.
Paul Dano can see right through his lies. Paul Dano is not that good of a person either, but he can see through his lies. They both can see through their lies, yeah. Right. It's such a good movie. on that note, I think we're done for today. You could see they could almost say they see through the lies of the Jedi. If they were Star Wars characters, they could see through the lies. We'll get to Last Jedi, Pete. Just not today. I got issues with Last Jedi. You're talking about the fan shit posting on characters and being angry about character development and not fitting their worldview. It's like, hello. That's what I find very interesting about you, Pete, is you didn't like Crystal Skull, but you like it better now. You like the new Indiana Jones. You like the prequels. You like the sequels for the most part, except for Last Jedi. But so you seem like a pretty reasonable person when it comes to just accepting things for what they are. Give me a valid argument. And I will consider it and take it under, and I will grow as a person as the years go by. All your takes on Last Jedi. This is weird. It's weird. All your takes on The Last Jedi is every angry fan take, and I have not seen a single negative take from you on Rise of Skywalker, because I would argue that movie is a bigger mess.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
The whole line is in Fortnite, but it's not in the fucking movie.
Yeah, what the hell was that? What the hell kind of promotion video is that? Like
Oh my god.
the opening crawl is the dead speak. It's like, oh really?
Regardless of what anybody thinks of that movie, I think it's fun. Do I think it's the best ending? No, I think it's a rushed mess, but it is fun. It's well shot. It's well acted. Regardless of what anybody thinks of that movie, the best moment of 2019 being in the stadium, Star Wars Celebration Chicago. They show the trailer. Palpatine's like, Ian McDiarmid pops up on stage with his mic. Lights are red. Roll it again. Mic drop. It's pretty dope.
Yeah.
And
So,
on that note,
well, I had a question for you. Did we talk
yes.
about what did you dislike about the new movie?
What did I dislike about the new movie?
Yeah, the new indie.
Um,
We
I don't
talked
think
about what we liked, but
I don't think
we talked about what we disliked.
I don't think I disliked anything. My biggest issue about rewatching it a second time, I kind of, I don't think it was as big of an issue, was kind of the pacing towards the middle.
Hmm.
The middle's a bit kind of drags on for a bit and it's a bit slower than like the beginning and the end of the movie. But rewatching it a second time, and I feel like that might just been like excited for the movie and not knowing what's happening, just kind of anticipation type thing. I don't have that issue anymore, so I don't really have any issues with the movie.
Yeah. I think the only issues I had were it's just minor things. Marion Ravenwood, small cameo, but there's not much for her to do in the movie.
No.
You wouldn't be able to do, the adventure. Sala's tiny cameo, but again, he would have nothing to do. He doesn't really have that much to do in the original movies either. He, the first one, he's more active because they're all 40 some years younger.
Right.
Antonio Banderas is the biggest disappointment because his small cameo.
I wouldn't even call it a cameo. It's kind of just a small role. Like when I heard he had a cameo, I was expecting him to be in one scene, but he's in maybe like maybe about 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Which I'd argue is a bit more than a cameo. But
yeah. I kind of would have been fun to see them go back to World War II instead of antiquity.
Oh yeah.
But then it would, like Mangold said, it kind of turned into like a just an endless chase and be kind of boring.
I think it's kind of funny. Like Spielberg says, I'm done doing like cartoonish evil Nazi characters anymore. It's like the most evil cartoonish Nazi character.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why you dropped out. He's like, I can't do this. James Mangold with it. I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go make Fablemans. You want an Indiana Jones? And he's like, sure. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. You want to finish off another beloved character? For the most part, it's a fun movie. Jürgen Voller, Mads Mikkelsen as the villain, very good.
Yeah.
He's very he's not dynamic. He's not, shouting his head off, foamy into the mouth type of comic character kind of villain. He's very methodical and
right. It's not
paced.
He's not an emotional villain till the end when he realizes he is wrong about the equation. I
can't stay in this time.
Right, and that's it. He's saying it in German, but I don't know German. Abort mission. And that the whole sequence, he's like thinking about it in his head whether Indy's telling the truth about the continental drift.
The only time he gets any emotion is when they go back in time, and he's like, and he's so happy. He's like, he turns around and his hair is askew. He's like, I did it.
Then he realizes where he is because he thought he was in like World War II for a second. He sees the ships and he's like,
what is this?
I can't stay in this.
And Indiana Jones is like, you took us to the wrong war. This is the War of Syracuse.
It's like, you fucking idiot. It was like gloating in his face with the fact that he was wrong. It's great. Yeah. He's probably the most developed villain of the whole series, and the series doesn't really have that much developed villains.
Yeah.
And I
They're
think it's
they're cartoon characters for the
oh,
most part, like you
absolutely.
said.
And I think it's very smart that the World War II stuff at the beginning ties into it at the end because it,
Mhm.
kind of adds more cohesion versus like let's just have this thing in here for no reason type thing.
Seriously, I thought his character should have died or got some kind of major injury with that. How he exits the opening sequence.
Right, right. He's just like on the side of the train, chunk, just
This
gets like
this water pipe thing comes and walks him off the train.
and
It's
the
like
head too. So I was expecting him to like have some like scar or something.
he has like this little scar over his eyebrow, but it's on the wrong side of the face.
Okay, so we talked about Dial of Destiny. We talked about the Indiana Jones series. We talked about There Will Be Blood, which is a fucking masterpiece. And I think that wraps it up for this installment of Kinozoid. Thank you as much as ever, Peter, for joining me on this discussion of Kinos and Zoids.
Yeah, yeah.
And without further ado, I'll see you guys next time. We'll see you guys next time. You can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, TikTok, watch this on YouTube or Spotify, whatever. And until next time, I'm David Frauci.
I'm Peter Oldlog.
And stay celibate for celluloid.